Hey, it's that Gamer Chick and welcome back to Unroaded. This is really fun and I'm excited to see how it ends, so let's jump right on in and play. Second dead man, lucky. First dead man, boring. They really had bet on him. The disturbed dust lazily hovers over the stone. The inanimate silence peals mumbling mixed with the sigh of one of the debaters. The second one snorts, as if in response. Dead men don't need to breathe. These are feelings. They have them. They don't understand. The Vagrant. Do you remember your names? First dead man. We all have no past. No one has a name. Names are no longer needed. Let's name them so at least they'll have something. The Vagrant. I need so I can distinguish you. Maybe Ben and Bean? Who is Ben and who is Bean? I like Ben. Second dead man. Then I am Bean. The second one turns towards the Vagrant. And who will you be? The Vagrant. Ben says, such a hypocrisy. Saddled us with names, but refuses to take one. Bean. No, wait, the Vagrant. Ben, Bean, and the Vagrant. Fine. The dead men get distracted by their previous victim. Bean. What will overgrown with moss faster? He or his clothes? Ben. If we bet on those who truly are dead. Let's get out of here. Seek for others. Is Vagrant with us? No, thinks too much. We'll spoil the game. But we will meet again. If he won't die. Bean. Friends? You look at him again. Yeah, we're friends. The Vagrant nods. Perhaps someday their paths will converge. Then he won't mind having friends, even though he doesn't understand what that word means. He hopes these two will help him find out one day. The three leave the basement and their paths diverge. The debaters are going away from the sun. They no longer need this city. And the Vagrant continues his way to the ruined steps. This is where nothing happens. Stone walls dissolve the world in grayness, and when they end, only the sky remains, in the same gray. The mad dead men are getting bigger. They attack without asking questions. Their hands never tremble. Their faces are always unreadable. The Vagrant doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to save them either. He doesn't care what was the reason for their madness. The magic of death or a weak mind that didn't accept the new existence. They have no hope of salvation. Or he wants to think that way. Where was once a heart hurts with heartache. He gets tired of timelessness. When no one is around, the body feels cumbersome. The mind is unnecessary, and existence itself is like a joke of an evil god. Why did you lock me up in an empty infinity? He does not receive a response. He knows that he won't get it by asking someone inside himself. Yearning insensibly turns into anger. The Vagrant gets angry at the silence, at the thoughtless who are dressed in the same armor as he is, and quickly gets irritated when he is forced to fight again. Soon he begins to attack first. Each new battle takes him more than the previous one. Anger starts to become the goal. He is looking for rivals. He wants to tear apart the armor, cut the tendons, smash the bones. He is eager to watch the last moment of someone else's existence. How the weapon falls from the hands of the defeated enemy. And one day he loses. The last death does not come, because the other dead men don't think about crushing the enemy into dust, leaving him behind when he stops moving. The sun runs endlessly across the sky, and the Vagrant lies in the faded grass, confusing himself with the dead. Stars are born in the dark and die with a forthcoming light. Why is the sun doing this? Why kill the stars? He asks no one again. This is too foolish. He seems to be losing his mind. Understanding this, the vagrant forces himself to rise and move on. He picks up the sword, but ceases to fight, falling when attacked, waiting, then continues on his way. He is already far from the place of his death, and even farther from home. When will he find what he is looking for? The sun has time to set as many times as a vagrant has markings on his sword's sheath, which they were made, apparently, when he was still alive. It's almost completely covered with them. They are not enough. The vagrant starts recounting. Once again, the earth changes its color. It grows with a stone. Trampled paths wander through a maze of rocks and find their end among the lights. Wrecks of armor are lying around. And is this a camp? 5 figures in black armor sit around the fire. Helmets are covering their faces and skulls are scratched on their shields. Humans? No, it cannot be. The vagrant realizes that he is correct. The knights do not move, do not breathe, just stare into the fire, fascinated, as if nothing else is surrounding them. The bonfire makes dying logs sing, and they sing almost invitingly, or it's just a delusion and a twiddle of the wind. The vagrant doesn't have time to move slightly forward towards the knights before one of them turns his head. A new executioner has visited us. His voice is low, humming, more alive than all of those the vagrant has met so far. But there was something deranged about it. Without waiting for the newcomer's answer, another knight asked doubtfully, "Or a new victim?" No, look at him. He wants to die, but still fights. Frozen, they look at the vagrant. Will you join us in our noble goal? The vagrant, who are you and what is your goal? We are the executioners. Life has rejected us, so we have rejected all living things. The Grand Executioner. When the first war occurred, our town was taken by countless battles. When the second war occurred, we were called out from the realm of the dead to kill again. And when there was no one left, we were abandoned. The vagrant. You speak of 2 wars. I only know of one. Twice burned land, for the first time by the fault of our foolishness, for the second of our despair. But nothing would have happened if it were not for the necromancer. He tricked the two kingdoms with intricities and intrigues to see the war happen. He came to both kings and offered death magic. When the armies were exhausted and the lands poor, the lords accepted his help. The vagrant, who is the newcomer? We do not know. We are seeking. Revenge will not take long. The necromancer must pay. In pursuit of him, we will destroy all living things, because war is what he created us for. Our king is forgotten. Our children lie in graves with fools and cowards who fled from death to fire. We will not allow ourselves to fall so low. Pain is our strength. When we burn the necromancer, we will burn this world, so that there will be no more stupidity, so that there will be no more despair. Life is a mistake. No, it isn't. The vagrant. Life is not a mistake. The knights are silent. They are not going to argue. They have their own truth. How many years have they been guarding it? For them, it is more important than their own souls. Reflection of fire danced on the black steel of their armor, diverting attention from the heavy stairs. What did they need the fire for? Don't they despise it? Or maybe this is why they huddle around the bonfires, as if they were still alive. They are testing their will. your spirit. After all, fire can provide peace, everything that all the dead men actually need. The Green Executioner. If you are not with us, leave. You must burn. Go your own way. Wrong. Again. The vagrant turns away and silently leaves. Foothills follow him with scarlet clouds. This place is too peaceful. The wind walks freely and carefree. It doesn't bluster or howls, only touches the grass gently and retreats to the sky as if it is afraid to do harm. Clouds gather and crumble as white dust, and when night falls, jumbles with the stars. The markings on the sheath become useless. Why time, if all there is, an endless way? Time is required by the living ones to remember about death. Instead of thinking about the days, the vagrant thinks about the silence of the morning, about the beauty of the sun at sunset, about how he tried to name the stars once. It returns to him impeccably. One day he catches himself in thoughts. Even from here you can see them. Bird, Pearl, Virgo, Shield, and one without a name. Someone's image appears in his memories, but he drives it away, and grasping at the bright feelings, dreams up with a different one. He thinks of a maiden warrior, self-willed and passionate. Her look penetrates the soul. Her touch is like fire. She smiles brightly. The vagrant realizes that it was someone from his life. The memory partly returns to him, and yet he discards all thoughts. He does not need memory, neither bitter nor kind. Only the image he remembers while looking at the stars. She is his guardian angel. There is a cape near the road. There, after the precipice, is nothing. Only a naked bottom that remained due to a dried-up river. At the edge of the cape, borders are overgrown with perennial moss. It takes time for the vagrant to notice a figure in the gray-yellow robe. Someone is sitting on the precipice with its head bowed. The vagrant walks closer and sits next to the stranger. His legs are dangling into the precipice. He doesn't speak until he is noticed. Oh, I've lost myself in thought. It becomes possible to realize that this is a dead man due to the finger bones that peek out from his holy gloves. His face is hidden behind a mask, and multi-layered clothing wraps the entirety of his body. Something in him reveals that he is a good fighter. The vagrant doesn't know what it is exactly, only that the feeling doesn't leave him. It is better not to meet with this one in open battle. Who are you? The vagrant. So you don't remember your name too. And what should I call you? Others call me a philosopher. I guess you can too. Calmness comes from him. It is not so cold and indifferent compared to all the other dead men who the vagrant had met so far, but as if no one is there. How can it be? The vagrant stretches his hand slowly so that the stranger doesn't get frightened and touches his shoulder. Dead bones cannot transmit feelings, but the hand hits an obstacle. Not a vision after all. The stranger doesn't react to the gesture. What are you doing here? The philosopher. Nothing. How is that? I'm thinking. This is an action for the world of the dead. The vagrant. What are you talking about? About water, earth, sky? What else can you think about while being dead? About your grief? That is a one-way ticket to oblivion. The vagrant. Why are you wearing a mask? So many questions. The philosopher. My face has been eaten away by death and time. Those who remain unconscious do not need to see it. The wind sings in a hollow. The philosopher responds to his song with a quiet humming. An awkward melody brings unwanted memories. This is an anthem. And something in this humming sounds terribly familiar. The philosopher. You remember it too, yes? Yes, we do. The vagrant. I remember, although I do not know why. Behind the cold mask, the vagrant feels a smile. The philosopher. You all remember it. There are no names, no past, but each one of you remembers the anthem. The vagrant. You speak as if you were not one of us. I am not one of you, not really. It was not the necromancer's actions that caused my curse, and I remember everything. The vagrant. Do you remember why the war started? Who we were and why did we fight? Yes. Tell me. The philosopher. When the seas depleted, a lot of no man's land appeared. The kings of the two largest empires were constantly engaged in long negotiations about how to divide the new lands. Nobody wanted to make concessions. I wish I could say that the rumors led the necromancer to the lords, that it was his evil tongue that provoked the first war, followed by another one. The vagrant. Isn't he guilty for the fate of the dead man wandering everywhere? The philosopher. He is just as guilty as the kings. Everyone was hoping to prevent war, but at the very first chance, they grabbed a hold of lies and intrigues. After fulfilling his part of the deal, the necromancer gave an advantage to one side by resurrecting their fallen warriors, and when they refused to satisfy his demands, he did the same for their enemies. The philosopher. His demands were once again not satisfied, so he left and let everyone kill each other. The philosopher laughs quietly. Let's find out what he demanded. The vagrant. What was it that he demanded? The philosopher. I don't know. Whatever it was, it cannot justify 2 wars. You would have only one if he hadn't intervened. And you wouldn't be here now. The vagrant. And where am I? The philosopher. On the way to the necromancer. The vagrant. Question mark. The philosopher. You did not notice that you always go forward, as if something is calling you to move on without you realizing where to, but you do not know. Something is waiting for you beyond the sun. The vagrant tries to remember the entire path that he walked on and realizes that he had never chosen the direction. He had no will. He just kept going. He confesses. Yes. The philosopher. It is a necromancer calling you. He sings to you. He sings to everyone. He summons the remaining stray dead men to himself. He wants to fix what he has done. The vagrant. By killing all of us? Yes. The philosopher laughs again, and the vagrant becomes scared for a moment. He managed to forget this feeling, fear, and didn't recall about its existence since he realized he was dead. However, it was not death that scared him. The one who sows death regrets for his wrongdoings. The vagrant. All of this is hard to accept. The philosopher. I understand. It is so sweet to believe that your goals are noble, that one pure evil is to blame for everything, but the reality is always more prosaic. The vagrant. How do you know so much? The philosopher. I was his friend. Okay, so now we have to go get the necromancer. Alright, well that's going to do it for part 2. Leave a like if y'all want part 3, and don't forget, comment and subscribe. and I will catch y'all later. Bye bye.